welcome to Diamond Painting Fanatics. This is true crime story time. However, it's Christmas and I thought we would go a little bit light-hearted. Yeah, I do have some true crime episodes recorded. They will be released shortly, but I thought we would just go a little bit light-hearted and a little bit funny. And I came across an article with the dumbest criminals, so I thought I would have a little bit of fun and read out these stories with you. So yeah, we travel all over and they are just short stories of the stupid things that criminals have done that have somehow been put into the public domain. So, number 1. Police in New York were called to a mini-mart where they found Blake Leake, 23, trying to break in. They chased Blake through the streets until both cops took a tumble. Seizing the opportunity, Blake sought refuge on the grounds of a large building. The building was the Sing Sing maximum security prison, where he was promptly nabbed by a guard. Not the best move. Number 2. Scottish shoplifter Aaron Morrison was picked up after pinching a bottle of vodka from a liquor store. It didn't take Sherlock Holmes to find Aaron. His name and phone number were left with the clerk after asking her out on a date. Okay then. Number 3. For a trio of drug thieves, it was their lucky day. They broke into a home in Silver Springs, Florida, and discovered 3 jars of cocaine. They took it home and snorted the contents. That's when they discovered that the jars were in fact urns, and they were snorting the remains of the victim's husband and 2 dogs. Ew, that's disgusting. Bringing a child to work day is a long-honoured tradition that allows children to see what goes on in the business world while also getting their chance to watch their parents ply their trade. One crook brought his young son along with him on a job, which happened to be robbing a pet shop. He was caught soon after, minus something important: his son. As 2 men waited in line at a coffee shop to pay their bill, a third cut in front of them. He threw a drink at the clerk and demanded all the money from the till. Temporarily surprised, the men quickly recovered and handcuffed the crook. Apparently, in his rush, the criminal didn't notice they were police officers in full uniform. Recently, a woman in Fresno, California, was stopped at a DUI checkpoint for being drunk. Ever helpful, she offered up this information. Quote, "My husband's right behind me and he's even drunker than I am." End quote. So they probably nabbed 2 DUIs in that. When an attempted robbery at a Lowe's home improvement store went awry, Milton Hodges fled across the street and jumped a fence right into the Cypress Cove nudist resort and spa. As the Orlando Sentinel pointed out, quote, as one of the many folks wearing clothing, end quote, Hodges was easily spotted. It's the worst possible time to faint, in the middle of robbing a bank. But that's what happened to a Beaver Creek, Ohio thief. The teller called 911 and asked for the medics. But you have to applaud the man's stick-to-it attitude. While the ambulance was en route, the suspect handed a note to the teller demanding all her cash. Mitchell walked into a Baton Rouge, Louisiana hotel and asked the clerk for a room. The clerk wasn't a clerk. He was a state trooper. And the hotel was actually a state trooper station. That's when Mitchell was arrested and charged with driving while intoxicated. Graham Price of South Wales ripped off the bank where he worked, but he wasn't completely selfish. He left a note in the safe, borrowed £7 million, signed Graham Price. Borrowed. A good Samaritan noticed an elderly man being robbed, so he jumped in and punched the thief. The thief was so upset he called the police to complain. When Stephen Crane broke into the Ravalli Republic, Montana newsroom, he used the computers to watch porn and check Facebook. Then Crane doused the office with a fire extinguisher, took some candy and left. It wasn't difficult to find him. Is it because of his Facebook? No. It's because the police followed the trail of stolen M&Ms that led to his sister's place across the road. When police in Vancouver, Canada, asked to search Jason's apartment for drugs, he was not a suspect. In fact, they were looking for someone else. That all changed when they got a look at how his name was listed in his cell phone as, quote, Jason, drug dealer, end quote. Two men decided a back-to-school event at an office supply store would be the perfect time to do some shoplifting. After all, the store clerks would be busy helping an influx of shoppers. The sale happened to coincide with the annual, quote, Shop with a Cop Day, end quote, when about 60 officers show up to help children pick out school supplies. Aidan Ramirez had it all figured out. He could be a cop without having to take the boring test. But he was arrested in Grapevine, Texas, after pulling over a driver in his pickup truck. Outfitted with flashing lights, he even had an ID badge, which he'd made by blacking out a restaurant gift card and etching in the word police. However, he'd kept the restaurant's logo, a jalapeno pepper, surrounded by the words Chipotle Mexican Grill. A Target store in Augusta, Georgia, agreed to take back a printer from a dissatisfied customer. Then the clerk noticed some work the customer forgot to remove from the machine. counterfeit bills. Two machete-wielding men barged into a Sydney, Australia bar, demanding money. They didn't know the club was hosting a bikers meeting at the time. One of the robbers ended up in the hospital, the other hogtied with electrical wire. In Mesa, Arizona, a home break-in was foiled when the burglar jumped through the bedroom window and got trapped in a clothes hamper. Cops took it from there. That definitely wasn't the kind of clean getaway he had planned. Joseph's alleged attempt to rob a York, Pennsylvania bank met with some snags. Cops say the first teller he tried to rob fainted, and the next two had no more cash in their drawers. Fed up, Joseph stormed out, threatening to write an angry letter to the bank. I tried to rob you and you didn't have any money. A German bank robber sent mocking emails to local police, ridiculing their efforts to arrest him. First, he had let them know they had his age, build and accent wrong. He then corrected their announcement that he'd escaped on foot. No, he had a getaway car. The cops got the last word in, though, when they arrested the guy a few hours later. They used his email to trace him. After a man kicked in the front door of a Texas home at 3:30 a.m., the resident fled and called the police. When cops arrived, they were surprised to find that the intruder hadn't stolen a thing. Police found the man in the bathroom enjoying a warm bath. Okay. Robbie Rose lost his first place medal and was charged with a felony after it was discovered that he'd cheated in a Texas fishing tournament by stuffing a 1 pound weight down the throat of a bass he'd caught. Officials became suspicious when they placed his fish in a tank and it sank to the bottom. According to the bus driver, it was a brutal, unprovoked attack. A woman got on his bus and assaulted him with a half-eaten banana. Quote, "I had banana all over me, on my tie, on my shirt, and my eye." End quote. The woman explained that the driver had almost hit her car and that when she entered the bus to rationally discuss the matter, the banana slipped right into his tie, his shirt, his eye. The court may not have believed that, but it did believe her when she argued that it was, quote, unreasonable that a banana could cause this much damage, end quote. They slapped her with a fine of only about $100. Police in California had an easy time pinning a 4-year-old murder on Anthony Garcia. That's because he pinned it on himself. With an elaborate tattoo on his chest depicting the killing, cops noticed the incriminating ink when taking Garcia's mugshot for a petty crime. The tattoo revealed all the details of the night, from the Christmas lights and bent street lamp near the liquor store where the body was found to the image of an angry helicopter. Garcia's nickname was Chopper. James Ryan of Memphis was charged with forgery after he handed a waitress a $100 bill. The waitress knew something was funny with the money. Instead of the portly visage of Ben Franklin, it was the star of the $5 bill, Abe Lincoln, who was staring back at her. A woman in Somerset, Massachusetts, was arrested for breaking and entering, but she was quickly caught thanks to her ankle bracelet, the one fitted with GPS. She had gotten from the police for being on probation from an earlier breaking and entering case. The victim's jewellery was missing, the electronics were gone, and a window smashed. No wonder she was hysterical when an officer of the Calgary police arrived. Then her French-speaking father called. Speaking in French, she explained that it was all a scam in order to get insurance money, but what she didn't suspect is that the officer speaks 6 languages, including French. Christopher Oxley of Everett, Washington, was arrested for conducting a drug deal over the phone in the bathroom of the Everett Police Department. A 12-year-old boy adamantly denied having stolen an iPhone when questioned by police at his home, and then the iPhone rang in his closet. Okay, yes, he stole that. But as for the BlackBerry he was also accused of stealing, he adamantly denied. Ring, ring. Ring, ring. Clive Halford thinks big. The British career criminal stole a truck and loaded it with 18 pallets of stolen nickel and copper worth around £150,000. Yes, the haul was huge. Too huge. Cops arrested him after the truck's suspension collapsed under the weight. Earlier, Halford had stolen a car, overloaded it, and broken its suspension as well. Don't you hate it when you suffer a heart attack and you think you're going to die, so you confess to a 17-year-old murder, only to find out you're not going to die and then get sentenced to life in prison? Yeah, that's what happened to James Washington of Nashville. At least he confessed. I mean, a lot of people don't confess. Callie Ruff of Middleton, Ohio, was picked up for shoplifting from a Dollar General store with her 2 young children in tow. Among the booty was a book, 101 Ways to be a Great Mum. It probably says number 1, don't shoplift. Following a dispute, Craig Islesworth of Florida allegedly tossed a Molotov cocktail at his neighbour's trailer's home, just as the wind shifted, sending embers onto his own trailer. Luckily, he was arrested since he no longer had a home of his own to return to. A San Francisco thief pedaled his bike up to a woman on the sidewalk, snatched the iPhone out of her hands and rode away. Unknown to him, the woman was in the middle of demonstrating the iPhone's new GPS tracking device. which worked. The thief was captured minutes later. Anthony Kenneth was impersonating a police officer when he pulled over another car for speeding. The driver quickly sussed that he was fibbing, since he too was a cop, but in his case, the kind of cop who doesn't have to pretend he's a cop because he's really a cop. He was arrested for impersonating a police officer. How convenient. Only a few months earlier, a man from Iowa City had his driving license stolen. Then who should show up at the bar where he worked as a bouncer but the thief, brandishing the bouncer's very own license as form of ID. Is there no honour among thieves? While two suspects were being questioned by Ogden, Utah police about shoplifting from a store, someone broke into their car and stole a stereo and several other items. An El Paso, Texas man busted into a church and absconded with the safe. Safes are heavy, so he only got a few yards before dropping it onto a neighbour's lawn, where he tried to crack it open. That's when he was confronted by the home's occupant, a police officer. So there you go. There are some funny stories and some not so funny stories just about the stupidity of crime. It doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. So, yeah. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas, and I hope you're on Santa's nice list and you get everything you wish for. And I shall be back with more true crime. I've got some very sinister ones lined up. If you're going to commit a crime, don't be dumb. Bye!